We have failed.
We have failed, but for everybody
Nothing
else
new.
who's joining us this morning, welcome to the Medicare Cafe. As always, you're joined by your host, Olivia.
And I'm Mike, and today we're talking about follow-up tips, especially during AEP.
Yes, and that's something a lot, again, follow-up with, like, people think about follow-ups as, how do I follow up from an appointment? But how do you follow up from just a touch point? How do you follow up from just reaching out to a client or a lead? Because they do mention that the majority of sales are actually made between the 7th and 12th follow-up.
You don't
even though
follow
the
up.
majority of agents only follow up twice.
You don't have to follow up. They'll contact you.
I don't think that's
Yeah,
true.
they had such a great time with you. Of course they're going to call you back.
This is horrible
Thanks
advice.
for joining us.
So let's talk about first, what about this horrid? I know so many people hate to hear no. We hate to be rejected. You and I were used to rejection. I mean, look at
that's
us.
nothing new.
We're used to rejection. However, there's something that I find even more horrific than no, and that's the I want to think about it.
Yep, maybe. You want to go on a date with me? Maybe.
If nothing else,
you could just say no. It's fine.
But like, at least when you hear no, it's a decision. You know what your next step is. When you say no, it's their expectations are set of what's to follow. A decision's been made. They feel educated enough that they're like yes or no. So why do you feel like people say, I want to think about it?
Because that's a stall tactic, of course.
Yeah.
Because maybe they're not confident. You know, and I saw this conversation online where someone's having trouble with zero premium. And that's that whole it's too good to be true thing. So if that's what they're thinking in their head, like, okay, there's a catch in there somewhere, they're probably gonna say, I want to think about it, because maybe they talk to their friends and family about it, or maybe they're just not sure. And they're like, I want to ask you because obviously you're here to enroll me. You're here to sell me something. So if I ask you for an answer, you're going to give me the answer that I want to hear. Maybe that's not true. Yeah.
Now, again, Brian says something hilarious that I am actually going to read. But I want to kind of hear your thoughts on this too. As far as people who say, he says he pulled Bill Cosby, says, I don't accept the answer no. That's dark, and I probably shouldn't have read that, but it did get me to chuckle this morning. How do you feel? There's kind of that old school, I would say, or that hard sales mentality of like, I make somebody tell me no 6 times before I move on. What are your thoughts on that? The whole, like, I make somebody tell me no 6 times before I move on.
I don't count my no's.
You don't?
Because the best advice I ever got was a great sales appointment is a natural flowing conversation that ends in a sale. So if you have a natural flowing conversation, I'm not looking for the no's and yeses. I'm just having a conversation. And so if you kind of take that agenda out of it, yes, you're there to sell insurance, but if they feel a more natural connection with you, they're going to feel naturally inclined to say yes.
Yeah. I think I'm totally okay with hearing no, because at least they know what's an option.
Yes.
I'm okay. And again, as an advisor, somebody can say, you know, that doesn't fit my lifestyle, that doesn't fit my budget right now. And it's either my decision to be like, okay, what part are you saying no to? Are you saying no to the premium? Are you saying no to the coverage? Like, what is it? And actually trying to find what that true objection is to see like, can I overcome that objection? What are they actually saying no to? When they use the line, I want to think about it,
it's like a half rejection.
It's literally like, like you said, there's nothing you can do as far as what that next step is. And so when people are saying I want to think about it, my biggest input from that is that they either don't trust you, they don't value you, they don't value the product. What is it that do they actually need to think about it? Did you overcomplicate things? Was your appointment 2 hours and you overwhelmed them and overcomplicated it? So what does I want to think about it? What does it actually mean?
And again, that's famous last. If you don't establish a plan to call them back, don't bank on them calling you. Because they've got 9,800 numbers. They've got mailers coming in, because this is one. In the past 2 days, we got 2 of these from United Healthcare. They're different, same concept. So they're getting all kinds of mail. You are easily replaceable in AEP.
Unfortunately, it's true, by more convenient manners. That's why the Medicare helpline, which we all know is the Don't Name With Ads, they're like the number 5 most Googled term associated with Medicare.
Yeah,
and that's on top of like any like Medicare search, they're number 5. So they're really convenient. There are people that are top of mind right now. You have to make sure that you're continuing to reach out to your clients.
So I have a question on this. So obviously we have a hard stop on December 7th because that's one thing we have to our advantage, unlike life insurance, which is perpetually whenever you want to get it, or any ancillary product. Yeah. Here it's, hey, you have till December 7th to make a decision per CMS. That's not me. It's CMS saying you have December 7th. Do you mention OEP?
For a prospect, if I'm working with a prospect, I probably would mention OEP of saying as more of like a, if you're uncomfortable, we still have an election. Like, let's try this out for the first quarter of the year. If you're uncomfortable, you don't like it, we will have an ability to change you after that. So I think I would mention it. And of course, to people who maybe I didn't get the sale, maybe they did call that 1-800 number,
Right.
but they don't necessarily want to move, I'll mention it there. But more so as a, hey, we get kind of a free look that first quarter. Make sure we talk in January or February or March so that if you're not happy, we can still make a decision.
Yeah, I think if they obviously have a Medicare Advantage plan and you're working with them, I like that free look you said. That's I like that terminology. Obviously, if they're a Med Sup and Part D, there
It's
is
different.
no.
I don't
Yeah,
mention
there's.
it. I don't mention
I would
it because
mention
it doesn't affect them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's, and also if they seem really hem and hawing and kind of just real flaky, you can actually give them more time to flake. So it may work against them. So use it with your judgment, but I like the free look.
Well, you don't want to
verbiage.
push OEP too much because if you make it like super available to people, then people will utilize it even if they don't need to, even if they're happy with it. They'll do like, well, I get a free look, might as well. Keep in mind that even if a person uses OEP to switch plans, it's still considered a rapid disenrollment. Rapid disenrollment happens if a person changes their coverage from an MA plan to another MA plan within 90 days.
3 months.
It's considered a rapid disenrollment, which is a compliance violation. So I let people know just to kind of put them at ease that OEP is an option, but I'm certainly not going to promote OEP to my book of business because ultimately that's compliance violations against me.
Exactly. So I think that's perfect. And I would say one big thing that we see a lot is when someone follows up, it's like, hey, I'm just calling to check, see if any more questions. To me, that's very impersonal. I don't like that. And it also gives them a very clear path to say no. Because it's kind of like when you go shopping and a sales associate comes over, can I help you find something? You're like, no, I'm just looking. You know, it's very impersonal. They're not trying to connect with you. They're just, that's their job to say, are you look? Can I help you? Here, it's almost like it's too robotic for me.
Yeah, it's very much like if you go to like I say Dillard's because I'm 90 at heart, but Dillard's or JCPenney's and the sales clerk says, can I help you find something? No, it's a very generic question, easy to turn down, easy to be like, no, I'm good, I'm just looking. You know, there's no personalization there. I love how you did this, which is how to kind of spark a callback, spark activity.
Yeah, because if you follow up with me and you say, hey, Mike, last time we talked, you were really concerned about cancer coverage. You know, I just want to remind you that blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, they just made it about me.
Yeah.
Now my worries about cancer, I'm not saying you should make them worry, but hey, this is a concern you had. I am acknowledging it because I was paying attention to you. And here's another piece of information for you. It's like,
it's not a sales call at that point. It's not a generic call that goes out to anybody. It's a personal touch. The more personal, the more real you make it, the more you come off as an advisor and not a salesperson.
Right.
And the only way to really do that is to keep good notes in your CRM, you know, saying, hey, last time we talked, you know, we talked about you had this doctor as your primary care physician, wanting to see if you had any appointments, wanting to make sure you're still happy with that choice. Again, making it very personal, I think, because voicemails are good. Like, and I say like voicemails because a lot of times they are voicemails.
Yeah.
But a voicemail, people get really frustrated by that because they're like, well, I'm wasting my time talking to an answering machine. If you keep voicemails short and concise and spark some sort of call to action or spark a callback, then it's actually like a twofer. You're getting your brand name out there and then you spark some action with it. So the more personalized you make those voicemails, the more personalized you make those follow-ups, the more action you're going to get from them, the more mileage you're going to get from that for sure.
Bingo.
So got a couple questions on here, and I think that's the last one. Yeah, got a couple questions on here. One was Howard was talking about how we're currently still seeing the big 1-800 Medicare, not 1-800 Medicare because that's the legit one, but like these big Joe Namath ads going on and people mentioning you know, actual dollar amounts and things like that, while he's saying, well, agents are having to jump through hoops now more than ever. We know what's going on with that. So keep in mind, those ads are actually considered compliant if they've been approved by CMS.
Right.
So a big conglomerate like that using Joe Namath, they may or have already had those ads that they're using approved by CMS. They're only not compliant if they've not been approved. So it's very possible that it is possible that they haven't gone through yet. Keep in mind that memo that announced these changes and updates went out on October October 8th. So you may talk to a lot of people out there in the field that have no idea what we're talking about, because the notifications actually went out to the insurance carriers. They didn't go out to producers. They don't go out to lead vendors. They go out to the insurance carrier. Also keep in mind, like the Joe Namath ads, who are lead vendors, they are not held susceptible to those rules and regulations because CMS doesn't hold them accountable.
Right.
Who CMS is holding accountable are the agents who purchase those leads. So any call center organization who is purchasing the Joe Namath leads are the organizations that are considered not compliant. So there's a lot at play here of why those are still going on. This is a good thing in the long run. I honestly think that you will see a decrease in those deceptive leads. It's just, again, this came out, 10 days ago, 20 days ago. So I imagine, about 18 days ago. So I imagine we may not see the implications of it this AEP, but I imagine you'll see some pretty significant changes, next year as far as how those are being handled.
Yeah, real quick, Deb said she doesn't understand the compliance conflict you mentioned with OEP. You can't advertise OEP, but a one-on-one conversation you can have. I mean, it's in the Medicare New Book.
Yes.
So you could even open that page saying where they could change plans and saying, hey, you have right here to change.
Yeah, so you can't, like Mike said, you can't market using OEP. So you can't do like a blind thing on a lead saying, hey, you still have time to change, but you can mention it one-off, and you can educate your clients about OEP. But as far as rapid disenrollment, again, rapid disenrollment is what happens, or what's considered whenever a beneficiary has a plan, specifically a Medicare Advantage plan, for less than 90 days. If they have the plan and then within that 90 days they switch to a different plan, that's considered a rapid disenrollment, and that is considered a compliance concern. Again, you may not even know what's going to happen. If you have if 1/3 of your business is rapidly disenrolling, then you're going to hear about it. But for the most part, it's just kind of like a one-off compliance thing, just something that the carriers track. But again, rapid disenrollment happens within 90 days that a client has a policy if they disenroll from that to go somewhere else.
Yeah, when the carriers are looking at rapid disenrollments and CMS for compliance violations, they're looking for a pattern. Like Olivia said, if you have a massive amount of people disenroll, that's a problem. If you have 2 or 3 out of 100, it's like, okay, a couple people maybe got confused, maybe found a different plan. You probably won't hear about that. You'll see because you won't be paid a commission, but that's not a compliance violation. It's only when it's a habit or a series or a pattern they're looking for.
And again, just to kind of continue off of what Howard's saying, is the carriers listening to us, and Terry talking about how actors were sued in the past for being spokespersons for a bad item. Again, I think we're going to continue to see, but it all comes down to who is the Medicare helpline. The Medicare helpline is a lead generating source. It is not an insurance carrier. They're not insurance brokers. So they're just not held to the same rules as insurance brokers. Who is held to those is who's buying those leads, which is typically call centers. They're the ones who are going to be held responsible. And that's exactly what CMS is doing, is holding those people, holding those entities responsible. So again, this is very fresh. We're still interpreting stuff. I think you'll see some updates coming out as far as what's going to happen there.
Yeah, they're going to look at the end user. Who was the one whose name is on the application? And I can tell you, call centers, they have, I think one of the things that not the reason CMS is lax on them per se, but you'll hear a lot because they have their own compliance department on hand. So a lot of times if there's a complaint, they'll pull the audio, like they have systems in place. When you go to a broker and you have a complaint filed against you and it was a face-to-face appointment, there's no conversation to pull it, and they're going to lean on the side of the consumer, so it makes the agents look bad. Where if you have a recorded conversation, you could say, well, I clearly said that there. Now the complaint, I didn't say it, but I have proof I said it. So you have a lot of unfounded complaints.
So Janie was asking a question off topic, but hey, that's what we're here for. Asking about Wellcare's plans. Wellcare previously had 6 PDP plans, moving it down to 3 PDP and MA plans, moving it down to 3 options. So Wellcare came out and said that the majority of those plans will be mapped, meaning that, and it's confusing because Wellcare, in true Wellcare fashion, sent out emails and letters that were very not saying that. We're saying that they needed to shop and there was options to shop, and looked like they were trying to take business away from the agent. Wasn't greatly worded. That's not what they meant. The majority of those plans are being mapped, but make sure your clients are reading their ANOCs, because there are no blanket statements here. There might be little one-offs here and there that were not mapped, but the majority of the Wellcare plans that are going away are being mapped to the plans that are currently available there.
Yeah.
And then Brian was asking questions about Medicare Center. Do we get emails when the client's completing the scopes of appointments? Brian, I'm actually not sure. It used to be that I never thought that an agent got an email when a client completed the scope of appointment, but
That'd be nice.
I mean, it might. I know you say
Maybe.
you feel you used to. I'll double check on that, Brian. Brian, shoot me an email, and I will double check to see if those are still coming through, because I didn't think that they got an email anyways, but we will confirm. Another Medicare Center update. Right now, I'm getting a lot of complaints that Medicare Center's text scope of appointments aren't going through. If you're experiencing that, you're not alone. I'm hearing that a ton right now. And we're thinking that it's actually a provider issue, provider as in cell phone provider. If you guys remembered earlier in the year, cell phone providers started coming up with this thing where they could actually start blocking potential spam texts and spam calls.
Oh, yeah.
So they may be, these providers may be identifying it as spam. So if you are having those issues, please reach out to me and let me know what cell phone provider your client's having. Right now we're seeing Verizon will work in some areas, it won't in others. We're seeing issues with T-Mobile and Sprint. So if you're outside of that, let me know what you're having.
It's interesting, there's only 3 cell phone providers: Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T.
Is what providers?
Those are the big 3. I mean, there are a bunch of small ones, but typically they're running off one of those networks.
Yeah. So, Brian, you may not, well, Brian, you are a crazy person, but you may not be crazy in this. And again, shoot me an email. It's not extra work. I need to dig into it anyways.
Yeah. So if you get the, hey, I want to think about it, make sure that you're going to follow up with them properly. Make sure when you follow up, it's actually a more personalized follow up. And next slide, make sure you're following up in a way that they're going to get the message. Because if you say, I'm going to send you an email, and they're like, well, I check my email once every 3 months, they're not going to get the message.
Yeah, because a lot of that demographic, since they retire, they really don't check their emails.
Yeah,
they use their emails for shopping and shipping notifications, and really that's it. So I love the text option. Texting is huge right now. And mail. If you are going to mail somebody a letter, a postcard, or anything, hand print it with blue ink will ensure that that piece of mail gets opened.
I say always send mail, because mail gets open now, because we're seeing less and less mail come through the mailboxes. I know all my statements for everything, utilities, credit cards, mortgage, all that stuff comes straight through email now. So I'm
a lot of auto pays.
Yeah,
like that.
Everything is auto paid nowadays.
So, and again, Deb is also mentioning some Wellcare things. Absolutely keep that in mind, guys. Wellcare was incorrect on all platforms. So if you were quoting Wellcare prior to the 25th, just know that Wellcare was incorrect on all platforms, including Medicare.gov, Medicare Center, and sometimes even their own website has been updated. So you might want to re-quote some of your Wellcare clients. But that, again, as of this morning, has been completely fixed. So.
Yeah, and she brings up a good point. Just because you're being mapped doesn't mean being mapped to the right plan.
Yes, it does not mean that they're getting mapped because Wellcare wants to keep those clients. Doesn't mean Wellcare is the plan that your clients need to get. And just, again, like, I know we all want to do what's best for their client. We all want to write the plans that are going to be the lowest cost, but my God, like sometimes lowest cost doesn't mean it's going to be the best service for that client. So I'm not going to tell you what not to write, but just keep that in mind when Wellcare shows up competitive.
But what were they incorrect about?
Everything. All plan information, formulary information was all uploaded incorrectly on the platforms. So that was a Wellcare situation.
So it creates a lot more work for you, but also I would view it as an opportunity to reach out to clients and say, hey, this is why you have me, and not relying on
if you would have gone to Wellcare,
mapping.
if you would have done that on your own, then you would have no idea. If you as a client would have quoted on Medicare.gov by yourself and enrolled yourself in a Wellcare plan, you would have no idea that Wellcare was actually uploaded incorrectly to all platforms.
Right.
So you would have had bad coverage, work with an agent to make sure you stay up to date with what's going on.
Did Cigna do it last year?
I don't think Cigna did that last year.
Remember,
keep in mind, Cigna's PDP is a direct-to-consumer product only, so they don't allow agents to write them anyways. But
yeah, I don't remember, but accidents happen, whether it was just user error or whatever. But I would just, it's important to pay attention to the market, because you don't want someone on December 8th calling you saying, hey, I got the wrong PDP, or I got the wrong drug plan.
Yeah, OEP won't help them.
Yeah.
So Cigna did have PDPs on Medicare.gov last year. They did have them on there last year. They just, again, are not agent sold.
Yeah.
So, Anyway, so join us on Friday. Hopefully you guys have noticed last Thursday we actually posted something called What's Brewing. We're incorporating What's Brewing into our Facebook page as well as our YouTube page. So if you're interested, make sure you subscribe to Senior Marketing Specialist YouTube page to be notified every time Medicare Cafe posts a video. But we're posting these weekly videos of just industry updates and what's going on. This week, I know Mike is actually going to be talking about Medicare and disability and kind of how the two work with each other. So really excited about that. If you like that kind of content, let us know. If you don't like that kind of content, you can also let us know, but like be nice, be gentle.
Yeah.
Also make sure you're joining Mike every Friday at 9 a.m. Central Standard on our Facebook page to talk about what topics. And today, or next Friday, we're going to talk about referrals.
Talk about some referrals. We're talking about referrals and your professional partners this Friday. Yes. So any other questions, comments, concerns, threats, or promises, throw them in the question area and we'll address them while we're here for the next few minutes.